your wideouts is funny. Like I think in practice there was a good amount of consistency. Maybe it feels like a little less consistent in the games. Is that a fair assessment, or what do you take away from that?
Yeah, I think we're working to sort of improve our consistency across the board. A game is such a small snapshot sometimes, and as training camp goes along, especially you roll OTAs into training camp, into the preseason games, it becomes a situation where maybe you have 1,000 reps of doing something, and that game may be 70 reps, and it may just be 25 or 30 for each guy. So sometimes it's a little bit of a small sample size. You don't make one contested catch, and all of a sudden you're sort of dropping off. So our guys are sort of working to improve. We just put together a good practice today, and guys are going to have opportunities to make plays. You don't expect them to make 100%, especially those contested plays in this league. The other side of the ball gets paid as well. But sure, we'd like to make a couple more in those games. I bet they swing our way the next time around. That's kind of how this world works.
Sorry, what's your impression of Alec Pierce overall? Over the 1,000 snaps or whatever.
Yeah, Pierce has done a really nice job. He's done a really nice job with what we're asking him to do. We're putting him in a lot of different situations where he's running kind of hopefully most of the route tree, and there was a certain point in camp where, gosh, he was getting open every single play, and the ball was just going to the other side of the field. That sometimes happens to you at receiver. I think Pierce has had some great plays in camp. I think he's had a few where he would have liked to make the tight catch, would have liked to make the contested catch, but he's made a bunch too. He really has. So I think he's continuing to get better. He's putting in good work every day. We're excited about the direction he's heading.
Just kind of talk to us about Evan Hull. I mean, just against Philly, scored his first touchdown in the preseason. I believe averaged over 4 yards a carry. Looked good in pass protection as well. Just overall, what have you seen from him throughout both the preseason and training camp?
Yeah, Evan's done a nice job. He's for a young running back, he's come in with a really professional mindset. The way he goes about his business around the building, learning, taking notes, just working in the weight room, nutrition, just all that stuff. He's done a nice job coming in and giving himself a great chance to succeed. We saw quite a bit of him at Northwestern do some certain things, and we've put him in a few positions here that maybe we didn't see quite as much on his college tape. And I would say he's pleasantly surprised us. You don't always know when you're doing something that you haven't gotten a rep of before, or you're doing something that's a little bit maybe foreign to you or you didn't do in college. How's that going to translate over to the NFL? He's done a nice job. Typically, you talked about protection. Typically, rookie running backs sort of struggle the most in protection because in college football, you just don't see a lot of that. You don't see them pick up a lot of blitzes. They don't have to. So for him to come in and really do more or less a really nice job in protection, he's been a bright spot at this point, sort of in training camp in the preseason. We look forward to him sort of continuing to get better, which he does have to do. He's a rookie. He's a young guy. He's learning a ton, whether it's just defensive looks or how they're playing certain blocks in the run game, how he reads those type of things, certain blitzes, how they fit certain blitzes, and how his pickup fits within everybody else, sort of our offensive line's scheme. Those are things that he's learning, but if he does make that first mistake, he usually doesn't make the second, and that's something we like.
Jim, with a rookie quarterback, how do you balance not giving the entire playbook for the season, but give him enough to where you can maximize what he does and look at his strengths, but not overwhelm him during games?
Yeah, I think that really starts to become the focus as we get closer to this first game week that's upcoming, right? We're sort of a week out from the game week. But when we get into those game weeks, you are really able to focus, for all of our guys, to focus on that game plan. Whereas, I've got some file of every play that's been scripted this training camp, this off season, and it's substantial, right? When you take that file and compare it to week 1 or week 6 or week 10, there are less plays that we're focusing on for a week. So we are all able to focus on a certain number of plays each week. Now, having said all that, you have to kind of keep memory of those other plays in the back of your mind, because sometimes things come up in a game. But traditionally, naturally, that does happen when you get into these game weeks, because we try to be really conscious for our whole group, not just quarterbacks or any other position, of like how much are we putting on each game plan, how many runs, how many drop back passes, play action, all that stuff. We try to kind of keep track of, let's not just put every single idea we think's decent but let's put the best stuff up there, and we've kind of tried to hone that over the years so that all of our guys can really focus on the game plan. And if we're doing our job the right way, that should be something that works seamlessly.
But along the way, keeping in mind, this is what this kid does. These are his strengths, whether it's RPO, whatever. You still want to maximize what he does.
Yeah, that's my philosophy for the whole roster. That's my philosophy for the 11 guys that are out there. So absolutely, the quarterback, what does he do well? What does he not do well? That's a major factor in how you game plan. I've been many places before where we may have a certain football play that we think could really work against this defense we're playing this week, but it just doesn't fit us for one reason or another. A certain player, maybe we can't run that route, or it's a different type of read that our quarterbacks haven't done before, and we don't want to throw that on them in the middle of a game week, in the middle of a season. So we are absolutely going to build each weekly game plan. Obviously, we're building it to attack the defense, but it's not just a blind sort of we build the best football plays we can build. We're building it with all our guys in mind, and quarterback position being really heavy into that. But same thing for offensive line, receivers, tight ends, who does what well, who we putting on each rep if we got to choose, and that's a major part of what we talk about.
This isn't a criticism. I'm just wondering, Anthony, the way he throws the ball, it comes out of his hand different than some other quarterbacks. Is there do receivers or tight ends, anybody, do you have to adjust to different quarterbacks, the velocity, maybe the way they throw the ball?
I think there's a difference in how the ball travels out of a lot of different guys' hands. I think that for receivers in this league, they kind of all have to adjust to their quarterback. When I was a young coach in the league, I used to catch. I'd have to go catch for quarterback drills, right? And I had Peyton Manning, and then I had Brock Osweiler, and then I had Zach Dysert at Denver Broncos, right? And I was just catching. I don't know, I'm no expert catcher, expert receiver, but it sure was different catching all three of those balls. And I, had to figure out my own little way as a coach just to kind of make sure I didn't drop too many balls so the drills didn't go bad. But I think these receivers got to kind of learn their quarterback and what kind of throw, because even it's just funny to kind of hear receivers talk sometimes. Sometimes guys talk about how the ball sort of comes in, and you've heard different quarterbacks before, like a heavy ball or there's all sorts of little things that go on out there where guys are throwing and catching, and they're ultimately we're dealing with guys that are some of the best in the world here, right? So they're going to be on every detail of their job. And so sure, there's a little sort of natural learning that takes place when you are catching one guy's ball versus another guy's ball, and how that feels, and where those things end up, and how you like to. Sometimes those guys try to figure out how they turn their hands. That's definitely something those guys talk about.
Some heat, I guess, we'll get that too, right?
He's got the heater. He's got the fastball.
How many tight ends can you guys reasonably play in one offense?
It's a good question. It's a good question. We really like our group. We really like our guys. You get into a certain mode where you're starting to think about the season and game planning and all those things, and we're certainly evaluating the heck out of that and trying to make sure we do the right thing moving forward. I don't have a hard and fast answer for you, but there are certain limitations on the number of guys you can dress each week, and that's obviously plays a factor in every position.
What's been your assessment of Marlon Cox, just what he brings to that tight end room, being the elder statesman and obviously in a crowded position?
Yeah, I would say it starts off with great leadership. Mo's excellent around the building, around the practice field, just going about his business in an extremely professional way. Obviously, kind of got dinged up in camp, and he was in a bunch of camp, and then he's kind of been out for a little bit, and he's on his way back now. But Mo's doing a great job leadership-wise. He's played a ton of good football around here. Like I said, we've got a great group. We're lucky enough to give them all a bunch of snaps, doing a bunch of different things, and try to figure out who does what the best. How much do we want to sub different guys in for certain roles or certain plays, and how much do you want to just let guys go play? That's sort of a part of the fun of every position, but tight ends being one of those. But Mo's been excellent. Mo's been great. Looking forward to sort of getting him back full speed and rolling.
Has it been hard because of the injuries to just evaluate that room? Because certain, like Jelani, for example, everyone's high on him. I'm high on him personally, but just haven't seen some guys.
I think we're football coaches. We love reps, don't we? You can you can track my quotes over the next year. You'll hear me talk about reps a lot that we all like, right? We all like reps. So the more, if I can watch somebody do something 100 times, that's better than 50, to get a feel for what they do well, how they do it, how we can utilize them the best. So sure, yeah, if everybody got maximum reps, that would be ideal. But that's the nature of the game, right? It's a sport that you're going to have a few injuries from time to time. You're going to have guys that are up and sometimes down, and that's the nature of the thing. So.
What's your plan for this week? I mean, this is just the second year where the NFL, you get that week break between the preseason and the regular season. So as a coach, how do you try to maximize the time that you have now? Because it's not technically game week, but you get a little extra time to prepare.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not game week, but we know who we're playing week one, right? It's a thing where we're not necessarily game planning any opponent. We are still sort of practicing against the Colts defense, right? Our Colts offense is going up against this Colts defense, but as we get going through the week and you have a little extra time in a meeting room or something like that, it is sort of natural to peek at that first opponent, right? Everybody gets excited for the first game of the year, so we're no different. So we may peek at that first opponent a little bit and see if we can't figure out one extra thing that you might figure out when you just have that single week. But it's a great week to kind of like get everybody back to just one more sort of pure week of work where we get to go practice against our defense, and Coach Steichen gets to put together what are we doing? Is it red zone day? Is it a 2-minute day? And we kind of get one last competition against our guys while we're sort of preparing for the season. So.